Hello, this is week 2, and this week is about observing children. And let's face it, when we teach early childhood, observation is our primary means of assessing whether it's cognitive learning, physical development, behavior, whatever it is. We observe and we record the findings that we note. Okay, just a few things about observation, and this PowerPoint is available in week 2 in your learning modules. Children's behavior that we observe may demonstrate a special need. You may identify children who are on the spectrum in your classroom, or at least identify the symptoms that would indicate they may have an issue. Obviously, we don't diagnose. We are teachers. We're not medical people, but we can certainly tell parents that, we have noticed such, and such. And, perhaps they might want to have that looked at by their physician. We also notice signs and symptoms of ADHD. Many times young children are just now coming into school and, displaying those signs and symptoms. And again, I'm noticing that, and so on and so forth. You don't ever diagnose, even if you're sure. You may notice that children have a special need for visual care, glasses perhaps. I can't tell you how many times I had kids in my first grade classroom that were squinting. I'd have something written on the board for them to copy down, and they had to literally walk up to the board and copy it down. That's when I would send home a note to the family and say, I have noticed that Junior is walking up to the board and standing 6 inches away while trying to read it. I highly recommend that you take him to his pediatrician and have him referred for an eye check. You may notice squinting, tilting of the head, covering an eye, all kinds of symptoms that they're, probably needs glasses. Okay. You may notice that children have a different kind of special need. They may have difficulty understanding what you say. They may not respond to their name, or they may respond inappropriately to questions. They may complain of ear pain. They may just watch others and try to imitate their actions rather than following the directions you gave. These are all signs and symptoms of a hearing loss. And, yes, all children are originally checked for hearing loss when they're born and then as toddlers. But sometimes kids have repeated ear infections over time, and that causes hearing loss because they wind up with torn eardrum or lots and lots of thick fluid in their ears, and they just can't hear what you're saying. So be aware of that. If you notice that children really do seem to have difficulty understanding what you say, then you might want to check with the family and say, I have noticed that, and see how they take it. They may say, well, I've noticed it too, and I have an appointment at the pediatrician, or no, this is news to me. I didn't realize. You just have to see where they're at in that journey, and then maybe help guide them towards receiving services for the child. Okay. You may also observe things such as bruises, broken bones, black eyes, unsuitable clothing. By unsuitable clothing, I mean sending the child to school in a summer dress when it's 20 degrees outside. Fear of a caregiver. Inappropriate drawings and writings. Inappropriate would be, children drawing about things that they should have no idea about, or writing about them in their journal. When you see that is a hallmark of a child that's being abused in some way. These are all indications, can be indications of possible abuse. If you observe that, you need to look at the whole picture, see what else is going on with the child, and then report it to the appropriate authority for your particular school. Every school is going to have an authority that you have to follow the guidelines, and that person will be responsible for reporting. If for some reason you don't have any guidelines and nobody is responsible for reporting, then you are, because as a teacher, you are a mandated reporter. That means you have to report, or you can be held liable, and you cannot be held, you cannot be charged with anything for reporting, even if it turns out there's nothing wrong. Okay. Children may hoard food because they're not getting enough to eat at home. Children may come to your classroom and fall asleep. Well, and that may not mean that they're being abused. That sometimes happened in my classroom with children who are living at the homeless shelter, because unfortunately they keep the lights on all night, and some kids can't sleep with the lights on all night. So they'll come in your room and find kind of a semi-dim corner and go to sleep. Sometimes children are withdrawn. I mean, they just don't respond. That's not a good thing. When you observe that, you need to follow up on that. Or you might have a child that is hyper watchful. When I say hyper watchful, I mean a child that, say for instance, you come up behind him and you go to pat them on their back and say something positive like, "I love the way you're making the letter A." But when you do that, they practically jump out of their skin. They're so shocked and scared that an adult would touch them and come up behind them. You know, that's a bad sign, that hyper watchfulness. That really tells you that that child has had repeated episodes of something bad happening to them when they were not watching. So now they're always watching. Anyhow, teachers observe. That's part of what we do as teachers, and we follow up because we are there to help children, not just teach children. Okay. So there are multiple methods of recording observations. One of the most common is just anecdotal notes. We just jot a note down just to remind ourselves. And I used to do that all the time because I've always had a terrible memory. So just, put the date and time and whatever you saw. But that's just a little note. When you're talking running records and journals, you're talking about a big note. I'm talking about a whole notebook. And you don't really need a journal or a running record on every child. That's not necessary. But every now and then, you're going to have one that you'd have to keep hourly records on, because it is a difficult case. So when that happens, just keep a little journal where you can jot things down. And, that way, at least you don't forget dates and times and exactly what happened. Lots of times we record our observations on a checklist, like say, for instance, you want to see if they know their ABCs. Well, all you need to do is have a checklist, write their names on the left-hand side, and then put the date on the top. And when whoever learns it, check, 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 easy, easy. You can also do an event sampling. And that would be a specific event like lunchtime or recess. Say, for instance, you have certain behavior issues that come up every single day at lunch. Well, that's an event, and you're going to go just to that event, and you're going to sample the behaviors, look at the different behaviors by the children at that time, and record it. Time sampling is very similar, because time sampling is done over a series of days. Say, for instance, you always have an issue at 10:30. Well, gosh, why do you always have an issue at 10:30 in your classroom? So that's when you start taking some notes on what is happening right before 10:30 every day and right after 10:30. And then maybe that'll give you a clearer picture. The thing to remember when you're recording your observations is be objective. Avoid saying things like, Susie always does, or it appears that Susie is unhappy. Well, it may appear to you, but it may not appear like that to anyone else. What causes you to think Susie's unhappy? Be specific. When you write things like, Josh had a bad day. Okay, why do you think so? Be direct. Use quotes whenever possible. Josh said, "I'm having a bad day." End quote. That's pretty clear. And be sensitive to tone and expression. Susie spoke in a whisper all day. Josh spoke loudly. Whatever it is, but be sensitive to it when you record. Avoid phrases that can be deemed judgmental. I think such and such and such. We don't need to know what you're thinking. We just need to know what you saw. I felt like she blah, blah, blah. Again, we don't need to know what you're feeling. Just tell me what you're seeing and hearing. I wondered, don't need to know what you're wondering about. It appears that she is unhappy. Don't tell me what it appears. Just tell me exactly what you're seeing. Susie came into the classroom and her head was held down, and I saw tears coming from her eyes, and I heard her say, "My stomach hurts." So now I don't need to know what it appeared like. I can create a picture in my own mind of what Susie looked like and sounded like when she came in your classroom, and I can draw my own conclusions. She loves to paint at the easel. Okay, what causes you to think so? Well, Susie comes in every day and says, "Can I go to the easel? Or can I draw a picture at the easel?" And then she spends 10 minutes drawing a picture. That would tell me that she loves painting. How about she hates to play in the block corner? Well, that doesn't tell me anything. Every time I ask Susie to go to the block corner, she says, "I don't want to." How's that? He enjoys. This is another one. How do you know he enjoys? What if he's putting on an act? Just say, every day Joshua asks to go to the block corner and play. I can draw my own conclusions from that. She spends a long time at. Well, you know, a long time to me may not be a long time to the teacher next door to me. Like, say, for instance, the lady next door may think if a child spends 10 minutes at the art table, that's a long time. Now, in my opinion, it'd have to be 20 to 30 minutes to qualify as a long time. So be clear, because different people have different ideas when it comes to lengths of time. Be very specific. She chose to. I saw him. I heard him. She spent 5 minutes doing blah, blah, blah. Let the reader draw their own conclusions when you write things down. And here's something important to remember. This is the mama bear. Whenever someone comes to talk to me about my children or my grandchildren, I'm the mama bear and the grandma bear. Remember that. You're going to be talking to those mama bears and grandma bears too. When you share an observation with one of those mama bears and grandma bears, always remember that yummy cream-filled cookie. You always start out with the positive. I don't care how aggravated you are about whatever someone did. You start out with something positive. Thank you so much for coming to talk to me today, Mrs. Smith. I just want you to know how much I appreciate Joshua sharing his crayons today. I just have to share with you, Susie didn't have any crayons, and Joshua said, "Here, you can just have mine while you're working." I just wanted you to know how kind that was. And then you start in on whatever went on, but you start in such a way that it is non-threatening. For instance, if Joshua's been hitting the children in group time, say, "You know, I use the I word. I am having a problem during my group time. I notice that Joshua has been hitting the children that sit next to him every day for the last 3 days. Have you noticed any behaviors like that at home? Now, you notice I didn't come at her and say, oh, that Joshua is just a terrible kid and he's driving me crazy by hitting the other children. You don't say that. Hopefully you don't feel like that, but sometimes we come across that way. So you have to be careful how you're coming across. So think of that cream-filled cookie. You've told her how much you appreciate his sharing. Now you've said that you're the one, have a problem with the behaviors that you're seeing from Joshua during group time. And if she says, I've noticed some of that at home too, and here's what I'm doing at home to help that. Or nope, haven't seen anything. He's an angel at my house. And yeah, I don't know what you're doing here, but whatever it is not working. Then you say, well, while we're together, what are some suggestions that you have that we can both use to help Joshua work in a kind way with the other children during group time? Include them as co-workers in this problem so that they can come up and help you with a solution. When you work together, it's so much easier than working by yourself. So that's the center of that cookie, the creamy part. And then you get to the very bottom of the cookie and you follow up at the end of that conference and say, I want to thank you again for coming in. I just really appreciate your help with this. And I look forward to getting this all ironed out and helping Joshua be very successful in my class and having a wonderful year. Positivity, just oozing positivity. Always have all your ducks in a row when you're sharing observations with families. It's important. It would be very helpful to have your anecdotal notes right next to you. On Tuesday, January 2nd at 10 a.m., he was sitting next to a student. You can't share names, a student. And he reached out and slapped him on the arm or whatever it is. Just be real specific. No judgment. Just here's what happened. This is the time. This is the date. Ducks in a row. Always use the I statement. I have noticed. I am concerned. I need your help with. Very important. Ask for their input. Get them all on the same page, and then follow up. Set a follow-up appointment or phone call to see how the situation is resolving. And this is just a fun one. Can you observe and find the arrow on the truck? I'm not going to show it to you. I'm sure most of you see it. If not, just keep looking at it and you will see it. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this and then I'm going to move on to the, hang on a second. I want to get in here. There we go. Here's our announcement page for this week. So I've gone ahead and gone over our PowerPoint, and there's also there's a notes page here in Learning Modules, week 2. And this is just a little review of what I spoke about this morning. It may not be morning when you see that, but anyhow. And also what I did was I took a set of anecdotal notes here. This is Kara. Kara, the first one is very judgmental. Kara is unhappy about coming to school. She has trouble making friends and struggles with her schoolwork. Her belongings are not well taken care of, and she tends to lose her homework and books. She fakes being sick after lunch every day so she can go to the nurse. Well, gosh. How judgmental is this? And if you were to send this to a parent, they could very easily get the wrong idea. And it really doesn't tell the reader anything. Here's the non-judgmental rewrite on this. Kara cries every morning when she gets to school. That tells you something about being unhappy. She does not talk to the other children during class or play with them at recess. Again, that tells you more than she's got trouble making friends. Well, how do you know? You see what I'm talking about. So you can read these on your own and see the differences. Make sure that when you write your anecdotal notes on observations, that they are factual observations and non-judgmental observations. Okay, so this particular PowerPoint is also here. It's right at the top, so you can see the PowerPoint that I used in this video anytime you would like. The next thing you're going to do this week, you're going to go to the reading response journal, number 1, and those are your 4 prompts. So you're going to go ahead and create your journal entry and post that by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. I just want to, let me go ahead and stop this share, and I'm going to reshare the screen. Here's our syllabus. Okay. When you're doing the reading response journal, this is really important. You need to use your own voice, no cut and paste from anywhere. Be thorough and type your responses directly into the journal in Blackboard. Or you can cut and paste it from Microsoft, from wherever you're using. You can cut and paste it in. But no links or attachments are accepted. Please note, no links or attachments are accepted. If I get a link or attachment, if it's not in the reading journal, it's not going to be graded. Please note that here is the rubric that I'm using to grade your reading journal. Your responses have to specifically address each aspect of the prompt and support your position with specific examples and details. And in order to get the exceeds, the full 20 points, you're going to go above and beyond doing that by having extra examples and details, further resources, different perspectives. You're going to go over and above. And that's the difference between meets and exceeds. Okay, and that's it for this week. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. When you send me an email, be sure to add what course you're in, because I do teach more than one course, and it just helps me to attend to your needs faster when I know which course you're in. Have a wonderful week. Bye.